I think this opinion came from like an incel line of thinking that was basically like women don't want the Clark part of you, they only want the Superman part of you. And I want to be absolutely clear. I should list it up. I want to be absolutely clear when I say this. First of all, none of you are like Clark Kent. Period. Not as helpful, not as empathetic, not as passionate, not as sensitive, not as caring. Clark Kent would stand up anytime an elderly woman got on the bus to offer up his seat. Clark Kent would run across the room to open the door for you. Hello, lovers, and welcome to Starring Cupid, the only podcast suitable for all you hypothetical, hopeless romantics. I am your host, as always, Zama Rex, nothing more, nothing less, from the east, not the west, massive S on my chest. Hi guys, how you guys doing? How you guys feeling? How goes it, brother? It goes kind of okay for me. I have not spoken to you guys in a minute, and that is completely my fault, I know. But just quick, we have some big accolades that have happened in the 2 months since I last spoke to you. Our Kate and Anthony / Canthony episode from Bridgerton has reached 100 plays across platforms, and that's really big for me. One, because I adore that episode so much, not just because I made it with my friend, my dear friend Chewie, but also because that was, now I can definitely say it now that there's 4 seasons out, that was my favorite season of Bridgerton. And so to have one of my favorite episodes be only our second episode to hit 100 plays is really major for me. I think all the accolades that I share are very major for me, no matter how long it's been since I started this. Everything feels like such an achievement, especially, and I keep saying this, for somebody that didn't even want to continue doing this. So I appreciate you all for listening. I appreciate you all for streaming when I was campaigning and helping us reach this goal. And then somehow, as like a consequence of this campaign, we also reached 4,000 plays for like the whole podcast, which was and still is really huge. Big for me, huge for me. Didn't think we'd get this far, didn't think we'd hit these kinds of numbers 6 years into it, and I will continue to be shocked with every single accolade we hit, because I'm so grateful that you guys are tuned in and stay tuned in. A lot of y'all make sure you are there for every release, and I appreciate you all so much. This is not a numbers game for me. I don't really think I care about being popular, but I do care about how much people listen to this. Does that make sense? And like, there's still stuff to be said that you guys are willing to hear from me. There are moments where I think, well, I've said all that could possibly be said. What is another episode going to do? And then I think of new things to say. And so as long as there is an audience for those thoughts, I promise I will deliver. Because boy, I can think. I can think. So yeah, thank you so much, lovers. Thank you so much, legacy lovers, new lovers that have arrived, like all of you. Thank you so much. This is lovely. This is great. That's great for me. This week, however, we turn our eyes to the sky, and we're tapping into really big shoes, really big leagues today. And talking about a couple with a legacy older than anyone that has ever and will ever tune into this show. Lovers, today we are talking about the famous, the classic couple that is Miss Lois Lane and Clark Kent, aka Superman, more importantly, aka Kal-el. Now, I'm going to be honest because this is a safe space that I've created for myself. I didn't really care for Kal-el before. I have to say, like, I was a bit young, I was a bit naive. I just didn't think that his story had anything to offer me, and I didn't see anything unique in his circumstances. Like, if we look just at Justice League alone, I think there's at least 3 aliens in that top team, the senior team of the Justice League. So even his identity crises didn't really sit with me, because I was like, you have problems, but Martian Manhunter also has problems. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of, I just didn't see the point in investing in his story from that angle. No offense to him. I'm not saying he's boring. I'm not saying that his story doesn't matter. It's actually a compliment. DC is so rich with interesting heroes, villains, gray characters that, like, you kind of, it becomes easy to overlook him amongst all the masses. It's not indicative on, like, his character or anything bad about him. It's just, it's a lot of people in the DC universe. However, 2 key events changed my stance. The first being the major flop that was the Snyder era Superman, and then subsequently the 2012 yep the 2025 release of the Superman movie. And I will tell you why. Snyder, no offense to him, I personally, I have no gripes with Zack Snyder, or like, personally, he's okay with me. There's no beef, there's nothing. It's just that, and I think this is, people are gonna jump me for attacking Zack Snyder, but I think we can all agree, and it was like an internet-wide opinion, that the 2013 Man of Steel and 2016 Batman v Superman movies are not good movies. They're just not. They're not good movies. Batman v Superman might actually be worse than the first one. And it's, I don't know what it is. I know what it is about them. I don't know what it is about them. They just were so, they were trying to be so intense, so tough guy, so dark and grim, that I feel like they stopped being representations of who Kal-el is as both a hero and a person. Yes, truth and justice, always helping people, but there was just no heart in anything that he was doing. Because you can't be tough and full of heart. Well, you can, obviously you can, but portraying it on screen, it's not gonna translate because they're 2 conflicting messages. And if you don't write it well enough, if you don't direct it well enough, all you get is kind of this toxic masculinity representation of what it means to be a tough guy who is full of heart. And I think that's what Snyder provided for us, and I just don't think it was that good. I will support him and say that the Snyder cut of Justice League is far superior, eons more superior than the original Justice League that was released to cinemas. That being said, it's very easy to overshadow a very weak movie. Like, again, no offense to that man. I have nothing against him. I just feel like it's really easy to overshadow a bad movie. So I'm glad what the Snyder Cut did for pushing the final edit being what the director wanted, because I think there's lots of scenarios where it's very important for us to hear what the director had in mind with the story. But other than that, he gave us nothing. In fact, he gave us less than nothing. He gave us one of my least favorite Lois Lane portrayals, casting one of my favorite actresses for the role and then giving her nothing. My poor Amy Adams. She would have been so good. I dream of the power that kind of Lois Lane would have had over me had she been allowed or like written to be the woman that we as fans, the people that have watched so many iterations of Superman, know Lois Lane to be, and he just wasted her time. And for that, I think that specifically I will never forgive him. And then the other major event, kind of coupled with another thing, is watching 2025 Superman, who I'm basing this entire episode on that version of Lois and Clark. But I watched that last year, and then it stayed with me for a very long time, and then it encouraged me to watch Smallville, and then Smallville really was the nail in the coffin to like convince me that, oh, actually I do love Superman. Sometimes supporting him or loving him as like picking him as your favorite superhero feels very boring because he's that guy. He is one of the oldest, most recognizable, most famous superheroes in the world. He is everywhere, even just like the Superman symbol, who he is as a hero, his identity, his identifiers are just all over pop culture today and from generations ago. He has outlived some of your faves, and honestly outmugged a lot of your faves. And that can be, you don't want to be the guy that you don't want to be the 100th person to raise your hand and say, I love Superman, that's my favorite hero. I used to think people that call him their favorite hero were boring. I'm so sorry to you all, because I thought it was just like, yeah, of course he is, he's perfect. And because of that, I thought there would be nothing that anyone could offer to change my mind about him or like make him more interesting to me. But this movie and basically binging Smallville over a few months changed that all around for me, because I started to see him as what he is at his core, which is a very isolated figure that is just trying his best at every given chance to like make himself feel less lonely and to help as many people as he possibly can. And I cannot hate somebody for trying to do the best job that they possibly can, especially if their job is to be a superhero. He's really good at that. And so taking this episode to acknowledge that, praise him for that, but also shine a huge light on somebody that I think is so integral to his story, both hero and person, but is very undermined when these conversations come up. Yes, because Lois Lane is a woman, but also because I don't think she is the ideal female love interest that people have in mind when they think about superhero pairings. Like, she is her own person. She has this rebellious spirit. She is, quite frankly, would be fine even without him. There isn't this weird dependency between them where it feels like one would crumble without the other, but the presence that they have in each other's lives is very, very important to why they are as successful in both their careers. Yes, I'm saying that Superman couldn't be the hero he is today without Lois, and vice versa. And I will stand on that for the next. This will probably be an hour. I don't know how long this episode will be. We know me. But yeah, so I thought this would be a really nice challenge to talk about people that are a couple that is so recognizable and yet so undermined or like not unpacked enough, I think, in these conversations that we have about superhero couples. And just to like illustrate how slowly but surely learning about who he is and who he yearns to be as a hero and as a person, that Superman converted me into a fan. So without giving out too many spoilers, let us dive deep into the adventures of Lois. I really hate this ship name. I'm so sorry. This movie was written and directed by James Gunn in big 2025. James Gunn is known for his previous work in things like Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad, Scooby Doo 1 and 2, Peacemaker, Dawn of the Dead, and the list goes on. Now, I spoke briefly about this man when we did the Halloween episode featuring Daphne and Fred. Daphne and Fred? Yes. I don't know why I thought I'd said Shaggy. But yes, Daphne and Freddy for our Halloween episode because, as I say in the episode over and over again, I absolutely adore Scooby-Doo's 1 and 2. So I gave him his 10s for that. I have to give him his 10s for this. Like, I wouldn't be talking about this movie if I thought it was bad or like written badly or directed badly. So I do think he did a great job with this. I think is because he's also currently working with them on the sequel. I think he was the right person for not only the type of character that Superman is, but also the type of message that they were trying to get across with this version of Superman. And so for that, again, 10s across the board. And that is where the praise will stop because I have thoughts about this man. I think I alluded to them slightly or largely in the Scooby-Doo episode. But I have a very long thought that I will share with you in the third segment of this show. For now, this is all I will say about James. I must acknowledge the original creators of this character because we would never have had all of these movies and TV shows had Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster not created him all the way back in 1938. So, thank you for your contributions to this world with this man that you created, this God on earth that you created, and how his story has, even though everyone basically knows what his story is, there has always been a new twist, a new interpretation, a new retelling that continues basically the legacy of this character. And that speaks to the work that Siegel and Schuster did all those years ago. Fun fact for everyone, because I didn't know this before I researched this movie. Lois Lane features in the debut comic for Superman. Like, she's not usually, historically, comic books tend to treat our, especially female love interests, but they tend to treat love interest as like an afterthought or something that should naturally follow when you create a person. It's like, oh, obviously this person needs someone to yearn for, somebody who makes all of the fighting, getting up again, worth it. It's not a familial connection or platonic connection. It has to be deeper and more passionate than that. And then they create romantic interest, but they don't really do much to breathe life into romantic interest. Like they don't give them a life outside this hero, or ambitions of their own, or desires of their own. And so what's lovely about having Lois as well is she has all of those things, and they don't ruin or infringe upon whatever she has with Clark. Like she can have these ambitions and dreams and motivations that are independent of him. And I'm happy that she was there from the conception. Like she was there from the very beginning of his story. And that's also really romantic if you think about it. Still on the crew, I would love to shine a light on the costume designers from this movie, because part of the excitement or part of the hype that comes with on-screen adaptations of comic books is everyone looks to how have they brought the costume to life. That's always one of the major stories out of these adaptations, is when they drop the official pictures of whoever they've cast in the costume. And I like how, I'm going to say, comic book accurate it is. I'm not a huge comic book nerd at all. I'm not a huge comic book nerd at all. But that's when I saw him in the costume, I was like, that's Superman. It's recognizable, it's classic, but it has like these fun details that add or elevate the look. I like the little high collar thing he has going on. He looks sewn into it, really. Like, sorry, it sounded sexual, so I had to think about it. Yeah, he looks like he fills his costume very well. And I know that is not just movie magic or lighting magic. That is also the magic of tailors and designers and craftsmen that were working really, really hard to make that happen. I also think that every time we talk about costumes, or like actors are interviewed about costuming stuff, they speak to how uncomfortable they are, especially in like men, because as we all know, men's clothing is not designed to hurt them like women's clothing is designed to hurt us. So yeah, the feeling of discomfort is very foreign to most actors when they step into roles like this. And I'm not saying that they should continue to suffer, because unlike the patriarchy, I don't think you have to suffer to look good. What I will say though is, if we are taking page to page, like from page to screen adaptations, like if that's what the people want, we have to accept the fact that those costumes don't look comfortable. None of them. I don't think there's actually a superhero costume out there that also looks like it is comfortable to wear day in and day out. Just the tightness of the material would drive me up the wall. So I think we also need to let go of the idea that of this imaginary superhero costume that is absolutely comfortable and functional and stylish for everyone. I'm not saying we shouldn't change it. I'm just saying we should get a little realistic if we're going to keep adapting these things to the screen. But yeah, guys, amazing work. I don't understand the discourse about whether or not his panties are on the inside or outside. Like, I don't know why that became such a huge issue with people for this. I think a lot of backlash towards this movie are also from Snyder era fans that are just annoyed that the company went in a different direction before the arc was finished. And so they will find like anything to like nip and bite at. And one of the things they had a nip about with this panties discourse is they said it makes him look childish. And I just want to say something. This is a children's book. Comic books, as much as they are for everyone and everyone can read them, the intended audience are children. These are picture books about mythical men They can fly through the sky and shoot lasers out of their eyes. I think we left the plane of reality a long time ago. We left the plane of mature content a long time ago. Of course, it's childish. He's a superhero. He's not a firefighter. He doesn't have to look official. Like, it makes sense that he dresses up like that. Sometimes when I talk about comic book stuff, or like I engage in comic book movie discourse, I think people are taking this too seriously. Yeah, I think you guys are taking this far too seriously sometimes. Because why are we talking about panties this much? Like, I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's all I'll say. On to the cast. First up, leading the charge, leading us through this story, we have the lovely Miss Rachel Brosnahan as Miss Lois Lane. You will know Miss Brosnahan from many things, including the marvelous Mrs. Basil, House of Cards, The Courier, Beautiful Creatures, and many, many more. Love her down. I watched Marvelous Mrs. Maisel quite later than everybody else. I don't know. I feel like I've mentioned the show like 3 times in the course of this podcast season, but I will mention it again. And immediately watching it, I was captivated by Brosnan's performance as Midge. I have problems with Midge as a person, but all this time I was just like, this is great. Like, she's doing great. This is wonderful character work, wonderful performance work. I understand why she got all the Emmys, and I feel like they're not, Midge and Lois are not the same person, but there are elements of Midge that make Rachel perfect for playing Lois, if that makes sense. They're kind of on the same graph, if that makes sense. And yeah, she gives us a very compelling, very compassionate and fun Lois, which is what she is, like the core of what she always has been, at least to me, a person with my very limited references. She feels like she embodies Lois very well. She's actually in my top three Lois performances in no particular order. We also have Erica Durance from Smallville, and the original Lois Lane, Margot Kidder, from the first cinematic adaptation of Superman. All 3 of them, to me, a person that has seen the media I'm referencing, they are Lois. They feel like Lois. So I tip my hat to Miss Brosnahan for her work here, and I cannot wait to see her and what she brings us in the sequel. Alongside her, as the main man of the moment, we have David Cornsweet as Clark Kent, aka Kal-el, aka Superman. You will know Mr. Cornsweet from things like The Politician, Hollywood, Twisters, Pearl. List goes on. He's a working man. He's a hardworking man. He works hard for the money. Actually, before I get gross, this is a perfect segue into what I noticed while I was researching this. Kal-el's the only superhero where his attractiveness is always discussed in his casting. Even just talking about his general, him as a character, everyone brings up him being handsome, either directly or like inadvertently. Like, everyone talks about the fact that Superman is hot. Even people that are just like genuine fans that aren't trying to sexualize him, like, it comes up a lot. And you're gonna say, no, it can't be just him, and it truly is. Think about any other time a superhero has been cast for something. we kind of go like, oh yeah, that's great, good for him, he has like the physicality and attractiveness are not the same thing. Us always talking about how Nightwing, for example, has to be fit and thick is more about a visual representation from the comic books, and also just like a visual representation of the strength and the abilities that we know that he has, like his gymnast, I almost said aristocrat, but that's not what I mean. He's like acrobat history, like that would visually represent what we think of when we see Nightwing. We visually expect Superman to be big and strong because, like, of course, the strongest man on Earth would be big and strong. But everyone also expects him to be handsome. I don't know when this started. I don't know how it has continued for so long. I'm also not really complaining because, first of all, men need to be objectified. Honestly, if we're going to allow objectifying people's looks and bodies to continue, I don't see why men can't also be the victims of it, because like it's either we end it for everybody or everybody suffers. But also, it's kind of worked out for them all this time. There hasn't really been a Superman casting that has just flat out been rejected by everyone because, oh, he's not hot. And with all of that being said, I need to unfortunately admit that David Cornswet is a very attractive man. I'm sorry, I thought about it too long and I started. Very attractive man. Sometimes he speaks for too long and he says some stuff and then you're like, you're ruining it. But that does not take away from the fact that visually speaking, that man is delicious. Wow. They bake it into his character. And, you know, I'm grateful to him for allowing us to kind of want him to be one of the most handsome superheroes. He said it himself. He said it in an interview where he was like, part of the thing that drew him to this role is spending his entire life always being like told he looks like Superman. That's a huge compliment also, by the way. So he knows it. He knows we're objectifying. He knows that we are thinking about him in this way. Also, he remarkably looks like Tom Welling. Like, there were jokes on Twitter about how Tom Welling is his father. Like, that's Superman's twin down. And now that I finished Smallville, yes. And I think Concert himself has said that he grew up watching Smallville, so that was his main like interpretation of the character, and just really grateful for him for continuing the legacy of Superman being hot as hell. I will not speak about the man before him because I don't want to. But yeah, shout out to these two. Their chemistry, their bond really shines through in this movie, and I cannot wait to see more of them. Honorable mentions. It would be so wrong of me to start this off without mentioning the third secret member of this couple, who is Lex Luthor, portrayed by our lovely Nicholas Hoult. I think he did a wonderful job. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. Most of the people that speak about this movie or enjoy Superman stuff in general have said that he is a really good Lex Luthor portrayal. And I kind of expect Nicholas Hoult to come into a room and act down anyway, but I am appreciative that he brought that energy, that envy, that hatred, that boiling hatred for somebody into this role. He did a really great job. And then I must also specifically reference Mr. Eddie Kadegi, who plays Mr. Terrific. blew my mind. What a wonderful performance. What a wonderful fight scene. What a wonderful introduction to a hero that I didn't even know existed before this movie came out. Like, I really think if you're going to add, I'm going to say obscure because I think I represent like the mainstream like hero fan who not into the comics, only into the visual stuff. So introducing an obscure hero into such a big movie, and not only does he land, but he makes an impact. That is a major feat, and I'm glad that it's him. I'm glad that it's Kategi, especially after the way the X-Men people treated him. I'm looking at you, Fox. Yeah, no, he deserved that. He was great. He was one of the best parts of this movie. We also have Nathan Fillion, Isabella Merced, Wendell Pierce, and Anthony Carrigan. As somebody that's a major fan of Barry, I think it's very funny to have Mr. Carrigan in this movie, and he's not Lex Luthor. But I'm not saying like switch it out or anything. I'm just saying it's very funny. It's very, very funny. He's actually way better suited for the role that he has now. And yeah, what an amazing supporting cast. What a wonderful group of people. Wonderful wonderful performances all the way through. Thank you guys so much. On to the plot. I don't know how to do this because legacy heroes, legacy characters, especially in the hero world where you're basically hearing the same story over and over again. Technically, there's nothing I could tell you about Superman or about Lois that you probably don't already know. But at the same time, you need to watch this movie to understand everything that I was going to say. And I think you would enjoy this movie if you're already a person that is into the superhero stuff, if you're already a person that likes DC stuff. This is the movie for you. I do highly recommend you see it. If you have seen this movie, but it's been a very long year for you, I have you covered. Do I put on the movie voice? Wait, hold on. What how low I can get? Let's find out. Superman, an intergalactic hero and a metropolis journalist by day, must reconcile his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing while facing off with formidable foes. That's probably terrible. But yeah, that's basically that's what he does. Good old Superman, always fighting formidable foes. Obviously from this point on, if you have not watched the movie, spoilers ahead. I might make a lot of references to Smallville as well, so that's also spoilers ahead. But like, that's a TV show that ended more than a decade ago. If you were trying to avoid spoilers for that, you were not trying at all. But yes, I'm excited to talk about this couple, because I also really like the messaging in their union. The idea that the strongest man on earth, the most indestructible, invulnerable person on earth, still needs people, and he needs those people to protect him, to keep him grounded, to tether him to his mission at the end of the day, and he needs their support and their love. And I think that's really important for people to see in action, and also for like young men to see in action, having a figure or a person that they can aspire to or would aspire to, who also struggles with these deep emotional wounds and finds support and love in the people around him, not just Lois, but in his friendships, in his family, in his network of heroes. Like, he does not do any of this on his own, and just how this union also brings out the best in both of them. It could have very easily been a kind of Jesus story where this amazing figure enters Lois's life and she's changed forever, and only she is ever changed. But I think they have such a huge impact on one another, maybe even Lois more than Clark. I think that might be an unpopular opinion, and I'm willing to stand by it. And yeah, I just thought there would be an interesting couple to unpack, especially since we've been with them for decades and decades, almost 100 years now, which is nuts. I don't think there's any couple on this show that's ever had a legacy that long. And that's saying something. And it's also saying something that despite us being with them for this long, every time a new version comes out, as much as we know the inevitable end of this is the happy, joyous union of these two, we're all still coming back decade in and decade out just to see how they move about new challenges, facing new foes, facing new threats to themselves personally and also in their professional lives. And that is the kind of love story I want to tune into. So I hope you are also along for the ride as we talk about the relationship between Lois and Kal-el. I must start off with the fact that what I touched on literally a second ago, the most beautiful thing to me about someone like Clark, someone like Superman, is that everything he does, everything he is powered by love. For some heroes, that only arrives much later in their lives, either just growing up, like realizing and maturing, or there is a romantic interest that enters their lives and opens their eyes up to how much love they can receive and also give back, like that kind of realization. But with Clark, I think he's, if not the only, he's one of the very few heroes that can say he has always known love. If you take away being ripped from his home planet and sent here, he actually had a really good childhood. He had very supportive, very loving parents that helped him, even when he was struggling with the abilities he had, probably making it very difficult for him to live a normal life. He always had the support system in his family, his Martha and Jonathan Kent, best fictional parents. They're the best parents a hero could hope for, and also their love and support for him is the reason why he can be that good. He can be that honorable, and he never. I mean, he does lose faith from time to time because, again, this is one of those jobs where today and tomorrow are not the same. You could save a school full of children tomorrow, but today you missed the split second where someone gets hit and fatally hit by a car. Like, it could be any day. Could be the day that you let somebody down and that results in them losing their life. And that's a very morose thing to have on your mind 24/7. There's actually a lot of depressing things that Clark has to deal with 24/7. That idea that you can never save every single person, even though he does have the ability to save lots of people, he's not going to, just statistically speaking, he's not going to save everybody, and that takes a toll on his heart. there is also, now I have to bring back his history, where there's not many cases like this, even though as the world turns sour, there are more cases like this day in and day out. But losing your entire civilization, losing your home, your language, your culture, your parents, like losing so much from birth, and then also not really being able to grieve it properly because he doesn't remember any of this. He was just a baby when he left. So he doesn't even really have the connection he should have to all of these things. But it's sad regardless. It is a loss regardless. So he's also a person that is walking around with an insane amount of grief that he really can't speak about. Yes, he has his parents who know his secret, who know his origins, but they've never been in that situation. It's very difficult for him to find comfort or find support with the internal battles that he's dealing with. Even the not being able to save everyone thing. Some heroes, it doesn't weigh on them that much. Some heroes don't care. Some heroes, like maybe like the Justice Gang, who are, as much as they're in it to save people, they are also like funded by people. They are mandated by people where to go. So it's not that free. You could chalk it up to your organization failed those people, not you. So he's also in a unique situation like that. It's just very dark, very morose things to carry around with him. And yet he is one of the most joyful and optimistic and kindest people around. And that's kind of the way it goes in real life as well. Some of the nicest people you have ever known have seen hardship and pain that you cannot imagine. And part of that is they know that hardship and pain. So they want to put out into this world love and kindness. They want to put out the things that they either do not feel or do not know. And that's what makes them so determined on their mission. And I think that's one of the things that makes Clark so determined. And it's a great quality to have as a hero. But at the end of the day, when he takes those big red panties off, he's still a person. He has to go home. He has to decide what to eat for dinner. Like, he has to sit with all of these things, and they're probably constantly plaguing him, like playing in his mind. So what do you do when that's your life? And many a solution. But one of them is to find somebody that doesn't make you forget about it, but does help you deal with it. And I think that is where we enter Miss Lois Lane, who is one of the she's perfect. I was gonna say one of them. She's perfect for him. She is truly made for that man, and vice versa. He is made for her. I think the nice thing about Lois is, as much as I think this movie portrays her a bit more seriously, and I think that's because they're focused on her from a professional angle as well. And Lois Lane, the journalist, does not play. Lois Lane, the journalist, is going to get her answers. Lois Lane, the journalist, would have gotten Trump to release those files even before all of the hoopla that followed. Like, that's who we're talking about. That is Miss Lois Lane. And she is all of that professionally, but personally, she's also a very good person to have around because she is so fun. She's fun, she's rebellious, she's intimidating, but she's also like very cool to be around. She is a nice person to have around if you are somebody who is carrying all of these things on your shoulders. And that's part of the benefit also of having the kind of pairing that they have. They have a very, I want to say it's a black cat golden retriever thing, but I don't think Lois is not really a black cat person. She's a lot of things that can be considered like dark and cynical like that, but she is also very light. She keeps it fun. She keeps it moving. But so that's the dynamic that they have. They also have a very unique dynamic in that although Lois is a human person who can never truly understand what heroes go through, let alone what Superman is going through, that inability to relate is kind of her superpower and helping him, because now you have this outside voice that can help you put these things into perspective, or like help you understand and not measure you as a hero, but measure you as a person, and like how much you have achieved and how much you have done for the world as a person. And I think that's very important. It makes his life a little bit easier. It's not the easiest dynamic, but also hero plus hero is not the easier dynamic either. So far, the most successful dynamic is hero and villain, or sometimes more specifically hero and morally gray person. And I think that's why people push for the Superman and Lex pairing so much, but they also, the writers of these things don't make it easy, because the more they interact, the more they talk, you do see how they would also work as a couple. But we're not talking about that. We're here to talk about Lois. Lois is also a pairing I support for him, because again, made for him. She's perfect for what he needs, also just as a hero, because journalists professionally are people that keep secrets, or at least know how to keep secrets, or know how to formulate stories to cover up their secrets. It's kind of their whole thing, which is very funny to me, because I think Clark Kent is not a very good liar at all. It's actually a miracle that he has never been caught by like him speaking, because I think if you let him speak for long enough, Clark would have exposed himself. He said, bless his heart, it's because he's a good person who believes in truth, justice, and all things good, but he's a terrible liar. There's also the closely related to the professional side is, because of her job, Lois is a person that is always seeking the truth, and people that are truth seekers are often people that are seeking justice, because there's justice in the truth. And she's led by her morality, she's led by her principles and her values, and that is, she values people's lives and innocence and their rights. And that is just perfect for a person who has dedicated his life, who's putting his life on the line to make sure that these things are protected for everybody else. I had to think while I was formulating this episode. And it's a reach, and I will accept pushback. I will accept people reining me in. But I was looking at the kind of person that Lois is, like her personality. She's like cynical, she's hard-hitting, she's super intelligent, she's fearless to a fault, like almost to a dangerous extent. Lois is fearless. But she's curious and she's bold, but she's also a skeptic. And she also has like this huge capacity for empathy. And I kept talking and I kept thinking, and I landed at Lois Lane is just a female version of Bruce Wayne. It doesn't help that their names rhyme. That was a mere coincidence. But yeah, she is basically Bruce. She's just a woman. She's nicer because I think women have to be nice. Bruce doesn't have to be nice. He could live his entire life and not have to be a nice person. But yeah, I think men need to investigate what's their thing with, like, I'm going to say feisty, but what I mean is dominant, like intimidating women that can and would overpower them. I think men just need to have a long chat with themselves about why that is. as much as they are perfect for each other, I do like that Lois is hesitant or skeptical. Hesitant and skeptical, I think both of them. Because there's this running idea, mostly I've seen it on the internet, I've never heard this in interactions with people, but there's this running idea that people think that the only reason why this couple is successful is because Lois was in love with Superman and settled for Clark. I couldn't tell you guys how wrong you are. I couldn't. Ooh, you guys are so wrong. You guys are so wrong. And I'll tell you why. Firstly, I think that this opinion came from like an incel line of thinking that was basically like, women don't want the Clark part of you, they only want the Superman part of you. And I want to be absolutely clear. I'm actually gonna sit up. I want to be absolutely clear when I say this. First of all, none of you are like Clark Kent. Period. Not as helpful, not as empathetic, not as passionate, not as sensitive, not as caring. Clark Kent would stand up anytime an elderly woman got on the bus to offer up his seat. Clark Kent would run across the room to open the door for you. These are not the things that make him a good person. I'm just like using examples to support that you guys are nothing like him. You guys are nothing like him. Oh, sorry. It was offensive when I heard that. I was like, you guys are nothing like my boy. How dare you, first of all. Secondly, and most importantly, I think everybody needs to watch a small movie, amazing movie called Megamind, which basically runs through this idea of a woman being in love with the superhero side of somebody. And I want you to see how it is unsustainable, because a superhero is not a person. Yes, superheroes are people when they take off those costumes and stuff, but then that's when they become people. Superman is not a person. Superman is a figure that was created to instill confidence amongst the people that you will never have to worry. As long as this man is in the skies, you will be safe. He is a symbol. He is a action figure for justice. Superman is not a person. Clark Kent is a person. And if you are in love with a superhero, you will spend far more time sitting with the person and not the hero. So you better have a good connection, have a good time, have a good relationship with the person. And that's what Lois wanted. She wanted to have a relationship with Clark. She knew that this is who she would like to be with. She's hesitant because still at the end of the day, you have no idea how someone is going to turn out. We are all, the people that are single, we are all going through the dating world just hoping to God that this person does not take our hearts, crush it up into dust and snort it. Like, that is the world we are living in realistically. It doesn't matter that this man on his off days saves buses of children and puts out fires in large buildings. That won't stop the possibility of them churning your heart like butter. You know what I mean? Like, she's allowed to be skeptical. She's allowed to be hesitant because this is still a relationship at the end of the day, which brings me to my favorite point about this pairing. I'm so glad that they fight. Oh, that argument scene injected into my veins. And it happens early. I think it happens maybe in the 15th minute of the movie, which I truly appreciated, like happening as soon as it did. And I love it so much for many reasons, but my majorist reason, okay, girl, my biggest reason is there is this growing desire to only watch shows and movies that where nothing happens. Nothing bad happens, nothing annoying happens, nothing inconvenient, nothing makes the main characters like struggle. People want no struggle, no pain. It's more prevalent in the rom-com spaces, and I wrote an article about this that I will be self-plugging under this episode, so please do read it. But it's happening kind of everywhere. It's happening with all media, and I don't understand it. It's kind of, people are having this, because our lives are difficult, our real lives are difficult. People want to watch things that will take them out of it, to the point where they want these characters to not suffer, not struggle, not have disagreements. And I want to tell you right now that that's impossible. Sorry, my arm fell asleep. That is not possible. And I'm so sorry. That is what life is. We come to this place to see life through the eyes of other people who have different experiences, who have different obstacles than we do. And the only way that those stories are compelling or interesting is if they struggle and face hurdles. An argument is one of those hurdles in a relationship, because if you think, even for a moment, that you and the love of your life are never, ever, ever going to disagree on something, you are living in a fantasy. Like, people were calling this an unrealistic fight, or they were saying that, oh, it was an unnecessary fight because clearly X person is right. And I'm not going to acknowledge the first one because you people are living in a fantasy. I'm going to acknowledge the second one because it's not clear who is right or wrong, and it's not even important who is right and wrong. Both people had valid points that they had to make, and they had to discuss them if they were going to continue in this relationship, especially as journalists. Guys, literally, your job as a journalist is to substantiate your views. Like, find an angle, find a story, find a question that you may have, find evidence to support or like not support the view that you, but like substantiate it. Of course, Lois is going to ask him, why did you do that? Why did you see the need to do that? And what are you going to do about the negative repercussions of your actions? Of course, she's going to ask him that. That is what the government's going to ask him. That's what every piece of media was going to ask him. If Clark thought that he could just save the world and never have to answer to anybody, he himself was living in a fantasy, because that was never going to happen. That was never going to happen. I think my favorite line in It's Incredibles 2, and it's said by, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name, but I love him so much. It's said by the agent that like watches over the Parr family. He says, the government doesn't understand people that do good for no reason. You're going to face backlash no matter what decision you make, even if you personally think that is the best decision you could have made. And Lois wasn't saying that he was wrong to do it. Lois wasn't even saying he shouldn't have gone there. Lois was merely pointing out that there are going to be negative repercussions for every decision you make as a hero, and you need to decide how you go about this in the future, because you're going to miss more opportunities to save people if you are somewhere in the Pentagon locked up because the government got tired of trying to rein you in. If you want to work in the shadows, you can join your boy Bruce up there in Gotham. There are ways to do it, but you have decided that you want to be a public-facing figure who works to help people, and unfortunately, this is part of the thing you have to do if you are a public-facing figure trying to help as many people as you can. She's not wrong for pointing that out. He's not wrong for getting frustrated that he has to go through all of this in order to just simply save people. And it's good that they talk about it, and it's good that it ends in an argument, because sometimes you will get frustrated with the love of your life, guys. There's no world where the person you love the most does not drive you a little bit mad, because that's what they can do. That's the access they have in their life. If they didn't care about each other, that wouldn't have been an argument. He could have walked out at any point. Lois could have turned off the tape recorder and like, we're not doing this anymore at any point. But they didn't, because that's what you do when you love each other, is you are willing to sit there and substantiate your views, be heard, make yourself clear, cut through all the confusion. Because if you don't, then you just never speak to this person again, and you don't want that because you love them. That was actually very funny in Lois's hesitancy. Wow, I really can't speak English today. She was very confused about how she personally feels about Clark. Like she didn't know that she was ready to drop the big L world. Yes. She wasn't sure that she was ready to tell him that she's in lesbians with him. And I was like, why? Anyone that I argue with, I'm probably in love with. Because if I don't care about you, I'm telling you now, I'm gonna walk out. I'm gonna walk out of that room. I don't care. So it was very funny to see her like still be unsure. But again, that's realistic. You are always going to like second guess yourself until you make the very dramatic leap to just be with them. Lois takes a huge dramatic leap when she tries to save him, because that was many forces working against both of them. She was out of her league, just like power wise. She had to hope that somebody in the Justice Gang was willing to help her. That was a major, huge leap that she took. If she was still unsure after that, then Lois. But it's good that she's skeptical. It's good that she's unsure, and it's even better that they have this argument and make up, because sometimes all you need to do is get those feelings out, get those thoughts out, and then you can reach this point where you're okay again and you can work better, at least now knowing how the other person feels about certain things. When I was preparing for this, I had to go back and listen through a lot of the episodes I've done, especially the superpowered episodes that we've had. And I got to the episode we did on Iron Man between Pepper and Tony. And one of my major grievances with them as a couple was really, well, as a couple, and also this thing that happens in the hero genre where they pair up a very unserious, mature, guns blazing guy with a woman that is hyper intelligent, hyper independent, and kind of steers the ship for them both. And I didn't like that, because that is such an exhausting place to be. It is such an exhausting place to be the person in this relationship that is always making sure that this person doesn't lose their head or like do the most irresponsible thing. That is not a romantic relationship. That is like having a little brother. No one wants to think of their husband or boyfriend being their little brother, because that's nasty. So I really like how in this relationship, in this dynamic, I feel like these are people that are equally mature, equally capable to think independently, work independently, so that when they come together, it's more like a helping each other out thing, less of a one person has to be the grown-up and take the reins on this. We see this dynamic with Lois, most recently with Sue Storm and Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie. I think it should happen everywhere, like, or in more places at least, because it can be so exhausting. You're already, as the human counterpart in this relationship, you're probably already so exhausted from just like the stress and anxiety of what your partner does, even though you understand that the mission or like the desire to keep people safe is far outweighs your personal emotions about all of this. And then to also just be stressed out by them as a person, I would You would lose me. You would lose me. And so I'm so grateful when we have superhero pairings like this that truly exist to support each other. I am not even being dramatic when I say I don't think Superman could be the hero that he is if he didn't have Lois. Every interpretation we have has kind of supported that in one way or another. The thing that Martha and Jonathan instilled in him to make him feel loved and important and less alone while he is on this earth is a mission that is being continued by Lois, because this is a very lonely existence for this guy. David Concert put it very beautifully in his interview with Ali Plum. I think David understands Superman at a level that even fans wouldn't. Like, he's really sad with this. And he was saying that at the end of the day, this is a guy that is very, very lonely because he has a very unique, very singular experience, but he has to keep existing in the world as if he understands us, as if he understands physical pain the way that we do, or as if he understands the real fear of losing your life like we all do, and he doesn't have any of that. And it's a very isolating way to live. And so it's really important that we keep their relationship the way that it is, because they would not be able to function on the missions that the individual missions that they have if they didn't have each other in the capacity that they have each other. Every Superman that has lost his Lois, either through death or through like circumstance, has very quickly fallen apart. And I think there's a reason for that. And I'm grateful that even though that is the hard fact about these two, everyone still works hard to make them a good romantic relationship for us to watch. And for that, I will always be grateful. And for that, I will always root for my girl Lois and my boy Clark. It's likes and dislikes time. It was terrible. I tried my best. It's time to get haterade in here, but first I must give tens where they are due. And oh yeah, I'm still without technology, so like all of this is very much hands-on work. I want to show you my notes real quick. Like, look at this madness badness combination. Okay, likes. I must begin with, I like that this movie is an adventure story versus an origin story. I lightly touched on this in the beginning, where we, at this point, especially with legacy characters like Superman, we know what his life was like. We know what his life was like growing up. We know what led to him being the hero that he is today. So there's not much more, I think, that storytellers could bring to us in that regard. So I do enjoy that everyone is kind of moving away from origin stories and more just throwing us straight into the adventure, the action of what this person, what this hero deals with on a daily basis. So I did enjoy that factor, yes. I like that a lot of his story is that only we as individuals can decide what kind of person we turn out to be. As much as we are built off the foundation of our upbringing and the things that have happened to us, the bad things, the good things, like they do inform who we are as people, but ultimately the decision lies with us. Like for Kal-el, it's dealing with the fact that his parents had cruel intentions sending him here, but cruel intentions that he does not align with at all, especially because of how he was raised by Martha and Jonathan. and he can just decide that is not who I wish to be. We can all do that. We can all do that. Obviously, there are specific situations, unique situations, where maybe somebody can't fully divorce themselves from how they were brought up and who brought them up. Yes, but we can make decisions every day to be better people or like different people. And I think that's lovely. And I think I'm glad that it happened to someone as invincible and invulnerable as Superman, because if he can make that decision every day and like do it successfully, then what's stopping you and me, mere mortals, you know? No. I love, actually love this. I love how Kal-el fails almost 3 times. Not even fails, but like struggles very much 3 times. I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, the the story arc that screenwriters and students of writing are told is that life is, you struggle, you develop, you grow, you struggle, you like hit a really big boundary obstacle, and then from that failure you try again, and then you thrive, and then you succeed. It's very brave to make somebody do that twice, because usually by the second time the normal human brain is like, well, then I give up. And he doesn't give up. I mean, he can't give up because also what's at stake is far too huge. But he makes the decision time and time again that I will not give up. I refuse to give up. This is not the thing that will take me down. And so I do like that we spend a significant amount of time watching him struggle and fail, because it's important to see that, because it's more important to get up after failing, you know. I like a lot of things about this. I like how bright this movie is. Like, literally, I could see everything in the nighttime. I could see everything, and that is beautiful, especially in this modern cinematic world that we are living in. Turn on the lights. I beg of you. Dislikes time. I'm realizing that all of these dislikes have to do with James Gunn. Wait. There has to be a different one. Okay, so it turns out all my dislikes are James Gunn related, which I'm sorry, but I did tell y'all I'm going to elaborate later. The first being, I think that as much as James worked for this Superman retelling, he would not work for Batman. And I don't know how he's going to do it, since they've decided to make a separate Batman from Robert Pattinson Batman, which also doesn't make sense to me, because guys, I've never seen such a straight out of the comic books accurate Superman and Batman existing at the same time. And I just have to accept that they will never meet. Why? Also, everyone's acting like it's some cardinal sin if they like touch through the screens. Like, it's movies. We're allowed to just make the stuff up. We are making most of the stuff up. Someone has to explain it to me like I'm a child. I do not see why these two characters cannot meet. It's almost ridiculous how much of a like dunk it would be if they could just get them in the movie, like matchup movie that they'll eventually have, because this is also all building up to an eventual Justice League type situation. And I just feel like it makes sense. Guys, do I have to go to Warner Brothers myself and show them the money? Like, what's okay? Anyway, my other dislike is, someone had to bring this up to me, and I hate that I didn't see it the first watch, but upon rewatching to research for this and taking this person note in mind. Yeah, no, this is awful. I do not like how they treat Eve as a victim. Because if the overarching message of this film is that kindness and love prevails through all, it prevails above power, it prevails above fear, all those things. Love and kindness is the only way. If that is the message of your movie, and Eve is literally being abused and threatened by her high power boyfriend, who has told her multiple times what he does to ex-girlfriends that he doesn't agree with anymore, and you take that and you make her the butt of a joke. The butt of a joke where Jimmy Olsen, for some reason, is irresistible to every woman that he meets. And you're going to say, oh, well, they free Eve at the end, so like it kind of pays off. It's like Jimmy still treats her very badly, even after she's released. Like there was no need. I cannot, especially on that second rewatch, I was like, I can't see why she had to be treated like that, especially by Jimmy. Like there was no, she's just treated badly for the sake of. It's very confusing, and it doesn't support the message of your movie, and for that I think you fail. This speaks to another dislike that I have, where I feel like James Gunn works with a gun loaded with blanks, because he is very willing to aim the gun up at its target, the intended person that it's meant for. He is willing to pull the trigger, like make the movie, make the message. And then when it's time to like, hey, so what was that about? He kind of shrugs things off. I say this because in this Superman, we see a clearly Arab country facing off against a less Arab country, more European, that happens to share land and space with each other. And one is far more superior, military-wise, technology-wise, and they basically rain hell upon this smaller, less developed country, neighboring country that they have. And then they have a whole media campaign about how they are in fact the ones that are doing them a great service by ridding them of a quote unquote terrorist government, and everyone should ignore the brute force and military force that they are using, because ultimately the mission that they have is that of justice and liberation. And he made this plot line, and he has them ultimately defeated by the good guys who save this Arab country from annihilation. And obviously people ask him, hey, what was that all about? Was that about what's happening in Palestine? And this man said, no, not really. It's just, how I feel about government. And the first thing that people will say is like, well, the message still landed, the people still made the association, so why does he need to word of mouth confirm something that you can confirm with your own eyes and your own brain? And that is kind of true. You got me there. It is kind of true. What's annoying to me is usually things happen in the reverse, where a actor, director, a public creative figure says something in kind of support of Palestine. They are rained upon with suppression and censorship, and they lose deals, they lose roles, they lose a lot just for merely pointing out something so obvious. The UN and the Hague agreed upon it, but anyway. And then thereafter, they can tell us about like, oh yeah, their lives were changed, but they would rather have nothing than stand in front of all of us and lie to us about a situation that we can all see. That's what happens. You got to make the thing. After you submitted the movie and it was projected onto cinema screens, like, you've already done it. You've made the message. You've essentially formed a stance for yourself that no one asked you to make, by the way. I don't think anyone's looking to him for political commentary on that. He's very good at the political commentary about what's happening in his home country. But no one needed that from him. No one expected that from him. So you've already done the very difficult, the very hard thing, the thing that people are getting fired and censored and blacklisted for. What is the point of now, when asked about it in public, to go, no, not really? And the reason it pisses me off as well is just like, well, now it sounds like you have just used the struggle and the oppression of millions of people as like a cute little side plot for your characters, and now you don't care. Which is worse, by the way. Which is worse. The tokenism. I think Mali, the falafel vendor that gets kidnapped because he is associated with Superman and then later killed for it, I think he's the only character that dies for his support of Superman. That making him the white savior of this nation, which, okay, yeah, that's what Superman does. But then if you're going to go so far to make this satire, to make it so closely tethered to reality, and then deny it in reality, you kind of look like a chicken to me. I'm so sorry. You kind of look like a chicken to me. This is not even me being like reading between the lines. This is the most obvious Israel criticism I've ever seen, to the point where in the final matchup, Lex admits that the only reason why the Bolivian conflict was happening is because he knew that if he started something like this internationally, Superman would be unable to intervene, and his intervention would then lead the American government to intervene on his missions, or like basically censor him. So you very clearly are making a comparison here to how the US treats Israel. And then when you are asked about it, you just go, no, not really. I think I'm allowed to be upset if this is all you can offer the people that you claim to care about in your political commentary. If all you can offer us is satires, if all you can offer us is a mirror to show us how things are, then what good are you? I'm not asking him to go march in the streets, because also that seems to be not very helpful since suppression is happening over there. But I'm asking him to, at the very least that he could have done is been like, yeah, I said it, so what? We reach the end of the show, and much has been said, much has been done. Also, before we go, acknowledgement for, I kind of dressed for the part today. This originally wasn't going to be a video, but then I realized, like, oh, it's been 2 months. I need to give him some. So I tried to, in the most Smallville way possible, like recreate kind of the fits that Clark had on the thing. Obviously with his colors, this is a very mixed colored, what are these things called? Oh my gosh, a flannel shirt. This is nothing like what Clark would wear, but I tried my best. My nails are blue by coincidence. It had nothing to do with what's happening here today. So yeah, I tried to be colorful for you guys. I hope you appreciate it. And that brings us to the fun part of this episode with the Who's Your Fave battle. We're doing grown DC edition. I wanted to say Justice League edition, but like it's a touchy subject. In this corner, we have Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, and Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, versus Barry Allen, aka The Flash, and Iris West, who's just his wife. You'd be surprised. It's very difficult to find DC romantic couples that have not died on each other or betrayed each other or just fallen out in any which way. I'm sure there are many comics where the couples I've chosen today don't actually succeed as far as I thought, but they are the longest standing couples. I think with Barry and Iris, it's the beauty of having a long-standing CW show that like gave people, fans, the chance to see their love in action. That's kind of what I think Smallville has done for me with Lois and Clark. So they were an obvious choice, and I like Selina and Bruce because they're the unconventional pairing that I was kind of referencing earlier about how you'd be surprised how successful a hero and a morally great character can be in this universe. And they do match each other's freak a lot more than I think Bruce would be willing to admit to. So that's me and my thoughts. I hope I haven't given away my choice, and you guys can make your choices and your voices heard on our poll. You can find our voting poll on Twitter at Starring Cupid. You can find it on Tumblr at Starring Cupid Podcast, or you can momentarily find it on Instagram at Zama T Shares. From my side, not much. I've had a good time. I've had a good day. I've had a wonderful time with you. I've had a wonderful time researching and watching stuff for this pairing, and as I always say, there's always so much more to be said. There are always so many other couples to come. I am so happy that I'm back in town with functioning audio equipment, because that means that more episodes are coming, more collaborations are coming your way, lovers. Just hope if you are in the Starring Cupid lovers line, stay in line. I promise you it will be worth it. For now though, I bid you all a graceful and wonderful adieu. I hope you are all safe and okay where you are, whether that be at home, maybe not at home. I hope that we start to become a society that is not judging each other on what makes us different, but more on what brings us together. And what brings us together is the incompetence and the cruelty of our governments, and we should band together to try and convince them that they should take care of us instead of squandering taxpayer monies on frivolous, luxurious things while not providing a single service needed for the basic functioning of this country. With all of that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead. I hope you prosper, and I hope you succeed, and I hope you live with the principles of Superman in mind every day, and that is truth, justice, and kindness always. I will see you guys on the next episode. Goodbye.